This is probably the worst news for anime, manga, light novels, anime and manga culture. This is legitimately some of the worst news I think I have seen all year long. And I feel like a lot of people that are potentially celebrating this don't truly understand how dangerous this is and how bad this is going to be. Like, if this fully does happen, if Sony does fully acquire Kadokawa, anime culture itself is going to change 100%. We've already seen glimpses of anime, manga, and light novel culture being changed to fit certain Western companies' ideology. And if this goes through, this is no longer just, let's say, Western companies being acquired. This is a Japanese company that will be acquired by Sony, and basically Sony will be capable of manipulating the releases of stuff at the very source. We're not talking about, like, mistranslations or improper dubs or anything like that. We're talking about them acquiring a company that has ownership of multiple animation studios like Doga Kobo, aka the studio that does Oshinoko. Regardless if you like Oshinoko or not, still a very big studio that releases high quality shows. And there's multiple other studios that, for instance, Kadokawa owns. That's not including their gaming division that they own. For instance, like, they own 70% stake or plus for From Software, aka the owners of Dark Souls and Elden Ring. Yeah, that's a big one. They have Spike Chunsoft, aka the developers of the Dragon Ball games, aka the newest one that came out, Sparking Zero. So, Kadokawa is a big company. And if Sony effectively acquires this said company, they will have a huge origin point source for anime, manga, and light novel releases. Because Kadokawa is a huge company that owns a huge chunk of light novel releases as well. And in fact, Kadokawa owns Yen Press. AKA, Yen Press is the main distributor of light novels, some manga as well, but mainly light novels within the West. So, the fact that this is potentially going to happen is scary. Because Sony for the last half-decade, almost a decade at this point, has been slowly spreading their tendrils and acquiring multiple anime and manga-related companies, gaining ownership of them, and effectively putting themselves as a monopoly. They are, honestly, the best description of it, they are the Eastern equivalent of Disney, or the Disney equivalent for the anime community and manga community. That's what they are. Sony is gaining a monopoly, and this is not good news. I've actively talked about how dangerous this is for the last few years now, ever since, Sony acquired Funimation and Crunchyroll, and eventually Right Stuff and Aniplex. Yeah, they even own Aniplex already. And if they acquire this, that's just like, they'll literally have studios. They'll have full-blown light novel ownership. They will have actual straight-up gaming ownership of some of the biggest franchises. They will have the distribution of stuff within the West, and even stuff released in Japan. Sony will have a monopoly, hands down, straight up. But it is probably going to slide under the radar, because to be honest with you, anime and manga content is very low level in comparison to a lot of other things in the world. So I feel like if you look at the vast majority of things, this is going to happen. I don't think there's really going to be anything that's going to stop this. Sony is going to full-blown gain Kadokawa. So let's get into some of the details here on why this is dangerous. This right here, as you can see on screen, is a list of things that Kadokawa currently owns. For instance, as you can see, they own Bookwalker, they own different studios like Spike Chunsoft, From Software, they have a bunch of different animation studios you can see here, like Dogo Kobo and stuff. They have Ingi, they have, Studio Kadan, they have literally Cinema Citrus, a 31% stake, but still, they own quite a bit. They own Yen Press, a 51% of Yen Press. This is a lot of stuff Kadokawa owns. And if Sony buys this, their stranglehold on the market is going to be certain. Nothing will actively be able to really compete with Sony at this point, at least when it comes to anime, manga, light novel culture, because they can literally drown out any other releases or people that get stuff in the West. And let's explain this. So basically, Kadokawa And let's just say Aniplex and stuff, they have a very big role within anime distribution, and also just what gets a light novel, what gets a manga, what gets translated, all that type of stuff. And effectively, if Sony acquires this, they can divvy out, what series, like for instance a light novel or something, gets adapted into an anime from what studio, because obviously they would own those studios, they would have a big say in that. But on top of that as well, they also can have a big say on how it's distributed into the West, aka through Crunchyroll. Now, at first glance, this might seem like a very good thing for the consumer. But anyone that's obviously actively been following news and information, let's say, around Crunchyroll itself, not even including Sony, knows, Crunchyroll keeps getting themselves into a lot of controversy and trouble. And the latest one, obviously, is the stuff with the voice actor stealing literal mail. But that doesn't even get into the other type of stuff, the other issues of censorship and agenda pushing and all sorts of other misconduct. Crunchyroll's gotten themselves into a lot of things. And basically, if they gain Kadokawa, they will be able to funnel stuff from Japan perfectly into Crunchyroll without anyone being able to really fight for the rights. For instance, when it came to anime coming from Japan, you had a bunch of companies, let's say when Funimation wasn't merged with Crunchyroll, Funimation and Crunchyroll, they fought for distribution rights, like which, site would get the rights for streaming. But obviously, with Sony buying Funimation and then Crunchyroll, it made it to where, like, if they bought it, it would just go all to Crunchyroll. And so they killed out the competition because they bought the competition out. High Dive is one of those companies that's one of the last bastions of just straight-up anime streaming releases that is in direct competition with Crunchyroll. But they are losing ground. About a year and a half ago, I made a video discussing about how High Dive had to back out of a bunch of different countries because it wasn't profitable anymore. And most likely, they're just not making enough money. And also, they're having to compete with Crunchyroll that arguably has a lot more money because they got that Sony money. They can't really compete with such a very big and massive company. And so as Sony continues to gain a foothold and buying out more and more companies that are affiliated with anime, manga, and light novels, it's going to put a stranglehold on High Dive and other competing companies where they might not even be able to get the licensing rights. You get the point. So as this continues to happen, this is becoming dangerous because the point of why a monopoly is dangerous is because it makes it to where the company will have no competition, they will not need to innovate, and there will be no place for anyone to go besides that said company. Let's give a good example of this. Obviously, in the anime community right now, one of the big reasons how people kind of fight back against, let's say, Crunchyroll, for instance, illegal streaming, is by pirating. They go through different sites online to watch their anime for free. I'm not going to be someone that's going to play a moral high ground and stuff. I've watched anime on different sites as well. What I'm trying to say is that if they gain Kadokawa, you will no longer be able to really just even fight back against Crunchyroll because Sony owns Crunchyroll and they will own the original source of stuff as well. At least the stuff that's under the Kadokawa blanket. A lot of light novels, aka ReZero as well. One massive series, obviously. Overlord, you get the point. Major light novel series are owned by by Kadokawa. And if Sony gets it, you can see the point. If you like those series, even if you wanted to pirate them to a degree, they could still be fundamentally changed at the source, which that is the next problem. So, why a monopoly is dangerous, besides obviously the fact that there will be no innovation or anybody to compete with them, they can effectively do whatever they want. They can price gouge you, they can raise the prices as high as they want, because they have no competition. Why do they need to make their prices fair? For instance, if another company is like, you get thousands of anime for $5, and then they also have 1,000-something anime, they would have to be a competitive price. But if they don't have a competition, anyone to compete with, they can raise the prices as high as they want because they know people are going to pay them to watch anime. Now, obviously, there is a big chunk that will watch pirate versions of anime and manga and stuff, but it doesn't change the fact. They can raise the prices as much as they want, because no competition. But it doesn't just stop there. If they have agenda or want to push a certain message, they can, because once again, if they own literally the source of things, they can do whatever they want with it. They can censor content, they can change it, do whatever they want, and there is literally nothing anyone can really do about it, because obviously they own the vast majority of it. And this gets into the whole Disney effect of why I made that comparison. Disney owns a lot of entertainment. I don't think anyone is really arguing that. They own a massive amount of entertainment, which is just staggering when you really take a good look at what they own. And it's obvious that Disney has their tendrils and everything, and they've really manipulated things to have a certain thing. And there's a reason why Hollywood is not doing so well in recent times, and even the gaming industry in the West isn't, because of certain decisions that a lot of companies like to make. But I'm not getting into that. The point I'm trying to make is that if Sony, which now is based in California, FYI, continues to do this, they're effectively going to censor anime and manga. Not just anime, but manga and light novels at the very source. Any controversial theme, anything that might upset people or be weird to a degree, will be completely removed, potentially. We've already seen cases of this, and the Western examples of different gaming and stuff, and when stuff is brought to Crunchyroll and all of that. So, what's to say this doesn't also happen for the stuff at the very source? Very dangerous. This is legitimately very unsettling and bad news for the anime and manga community. Legitimately, some of the worst news I think of all here. If it has to be affiliated with anime and manga and stuff, this is the worst news that we could possibly have gotten. I hope this deal doesn't happen. I hope Kadokawa turns them down, but I really don't think they will. Sony has a lot of money, and also, I want to point something out. Sony is the same company that recently had the failure of Concord. FYI. Same studio that did the whole debacle with Helldivers. Obviously different sub-branch of Sony, it's the gaming division, but still owned by Sony nonetheless. The thing is that, what's to say what's happening in the gaming division doesn't happen in the anime division. You see what I'm getting at. So yeah, bad news. Just very, very bad news. Nothing good about this whatsoever. Literally the worst thing I woke up to. I did not want to see this when I opened up, social media today, but obviously I saw it. People need to become aware of this, and for those that say, I guess I'm going to just go back to the high seas, that's not really going to help this time, because obviously, it could help that you won't be giving them money, but effectively it'll just get the series canceled, because obviously if they own the stuff at the very source, there's just nothing you can do. If you have an interest in it, it's going to potentially get censored or changed or whatever to fit modern times, modern audiences, so to speak. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. I wanted to talk about this. I saw this and I was just like, man, this is what I feared, and it's actually happening. It's only a matter of time now until Sony acquires Viz. I talked about this, but I feel like it's going to happen. If they really do get Kadokawa, they're going to get Viz soon. Because if they have Yen Press under their banner, and then they have Right Stuff and Crunchyroll and all that, oh man, Viz is next. And if Viz gets acquired, oh goodness. They will literally have the massive releases of light novels, manga, and anime all in the West. They will completely own a blanket on everything. I'm concerned. I do think that's going to happen soon. But I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much. Be safe, stay healthy. Chibi out.